Okay, perfect. Thank you. Welcome to the Corporate Services Standing Committee meeting of May 6th, 2025. I confirm that we have quorum to hand the chair over to Councillor Tucky.
Thank you. Moving along, can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll move
Councillor Burke. Sorry.
Sure.
I'll move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on Mayor first?
Thank you. I have two additions under other business. The first is under A, other business, lottery fees. And under B, it's an in-camera in accordance to the CTV Act, Section 23(3)D, the salary, benefit, and performance report of an employee.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? So carried. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the Corporate Services Standing Meeting of April 1st, 2025?
So I move that the minutes from the Corporate Services Standing Committee meeting on April 1st, 2025 be adopted.
Second, Councillor Beck. Any discussion?
Please, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, before they're approved, they need to have the movers and seconders for a number of motions included. Names are left off.
So just
Oh,
with it.
Yeah, so we can't accept it as presented. We'll have to accept it as amended.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That was the same thing.
okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? We've all had the opportunity to review our visions and values. Gino declaration of financial interest. Delegations. Director's report. So I'll pass that over to our SAO.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tucky. As Director Hood, as you all know, he has agreed to return after his holidays till the end of August. So I had him do a report right to the last minute. I made him work, but he's gone off on holidays right now. Currently, Corporate Services has 2 vacant positions. The Director of Corporate Service position is still vacant, being filled temporarily by Director Hood. We did recently have interviews, and we had 2 good interviews. We had 2 good applicants. One has unfortunately since withdrew from the competition, and we have not yet heard on the other one if they're willing to move to the next step of the competition. So I will be keeping the HR committee. It was Councillor Bathe and Mayor Ferguson who were a part of the HR committee for that interview. And the manager HR position, we closed the competition. We've done screening, and early next week we have 4 interviews. There's 4 potential candidates for that we're moving forward on interviews. So you guys all got your bills in your inboxes, so you know the utility bills are catching up. We're getting closer and closer to being a timely fashion. Ongoing staff training and cross training. They're getting very comfortable in their positions, and again, this is a great team. We're really supporting each other. We have a couple away right now, with Director Hood being away, and as well as our accounts payable clerk is currently away on medical. So the team's pulling together and really supporting each other and doing so. Everybody's sort of covering 2 different roles. So I ask that any request to them be gentle and take in consideration that the team right now, and Rabina's also away, so we are short-staffed up front right now. That's just for this week. Capital budget, work's already away. You heard Councillor, help me here, Director McNabb talk about the capital project that he's directly taking on. Everybody's moving forward very well with their projects, and I have presented an update on one of the projects later on in this, and I will continue as I have more, if things start moving forward, I'll be bringing forward reports on that status update. We're working on, one of the things that Director Hood and I have been working on is a way to ensure that our contribution agreements that are coming in are tracked. Each director does write proposals and get funding for their department specific. And in the past, it's been really hard to sort of track what proposals are out, which contributions have come in, and where the funding that's flowing in is all coming from, and making sure that all of our reporting back to those funder is in alignment. So we've been really working on creating a good tracking system for that keeps everybody informed, and putting one person in charge of monitoring it. So that's something that we've been working on actually even since Director Hood was just a consultant. I shouldn't say just, but he was just consulting with us. That was one of the things we started on. We're going ahead with our IT upgrades. Those who are in the office know that it's been a bit of a challenge as the new IT is coming on side. Things are still uploading. Everything's slowed down. We're having a hard time accessing everything. It's hoped over the next week that everything will be in play. We'll have the bugs worked out, and it'll be a little more streamlined upstairs. They are looking at streamlining processes, and they're continuing to do research into automated processes utilizing iCity. Director McNabb has done a lot of work on online applications. I think the burn permits, there's different development permits, and there's a lot more we can do. And it's just when we have the time to sort of do that research and implement it. And acting director right now is Sham. So, and she's excellent, and she stepped right nicely into the role, except that I did forget to ask her if she wanted to join us tonight, because I just completely forgot. So, I will ask her if she'll be here for next month's meeting. Any questions?
You're getting off too easy.
Hmm?
You're getting off too easy.
You can ask them any day.
Well, it's just, I'm just thinking back to our director of corporate services and how we've been actively recruiting, actively interviewing, searching for I would almost say 2 years now. Or no, whatever.
No,
over
it's not even a year.
A year.
Not even.
And it's been, we've gone through this process several times where we got to a great position. We're like, oh, right on. And then, some situation changes and we don't have that potential thing anymore. Should we be thinking of different ways of offering this or employing this? Like, is this something we could shift our office around? Like, do we change it, take parts of it out, and say we just need an office manager and this specialized person that does that recording and reporting and allocating and finding funds and that? Could that part of it be remoted, and then we have someone in-house managing and looking after the day-to-day of the staff? Like, if we are unsuccessful again, should we look at different ways of how to employ that position?
Yes, ma'am.
Having just gone through an organizational review where they actually recommended the best structures, and that corporate services is the one that provides consistent services across the whole organizational, and that's our corporate supports. I really don't think that we want to look at restructuring that. I think maybe we look at more creative ways of searching, and we just hope the right person. We all know that it's a really competitive world there right now, and Fort Smith is an isolated community. If anything, we look at pay structures maybe over the next while. That might be the only other one, or more creative benefit packages perhaps. But I wouldn't see that we look at a restructure within this time.
Councillor Cox.
Is it possible to follow up with all the interviewees who turned down positions and see kind of what, almost like an exit interview, but not an exit interview if they weren't actually here? Is there a key thing that we're missing to sway them?
Ms. Thomas?
I actually think that's a great idea, and I think to make it sort of neutral, I could ask the recruiters if they could do that sort of backwards reach back to sort of see. I don't know what other word to use. I'm sorry. I think the recruiters would be ideal at doing that because they could really get there and say, what could we do better? What would be more attractive to you? Because the one who withdrew, his email was very much the pay's good, the benefits are good. It just wasn't the right thing for him. There was no, you don't pay enough. There wasn't anything.
Thank you. Councillor Couvrette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not going to solve the problem in the short or even midterm, but I think we really need to look at our succession planning as a corporate entity, especially for our key positions, and start looking at possibly identifying people from within the community that are more likely to become, that would more likely remain long-term residents of our community, and start aggressively bringing them, presenting them opportunities to move forward in the organization and providing the professional development services that they need to be able to, 3 years down the road, qualify for more senior management positions. So I think succession planning is something a lot, and it's not a criticism of this organization. Almost every other organization I know of has very poor succession planning. I think maybe it's time for Fort Smith to step forward and say, yes, we're going to become a leader in succession planning.
Mayor Ferguson.
I agree with you, but when you have the GNWT who will gobble up every highly skilled person that you train out of the private sector, out of our sector, out of everywhere else, we're just paying their training. We're training them for them. And I don't disagree. I love that idea. I would love that, but we'll go through that process and lose them to GNWT.
Councillor Couvrette.
Thank you. And that's where I think, following up on the SAO's comment is, the only saving grace with the current financial realities facing federal and territorial government is they're really going to have to seriously look at their compensation packages. And I think if we offer additional benefits, maybe not directly financial benefits, but lifestyle choices that reduce, like I know prior to the last collective agreement, I had suggested that we go to a 35-hour week for standard 37 and a half. Just those types of benefits that, yes, they do impact us financially and productively, but they offer potential employees a better employment lifestyle. I think we have to get more creative in how we attract people and how we retain them.
Thanks. I think part of it's just how we sell it. I mean, thinking back now, when I worked for the town briefly, and our benefits package, if I remember, was pretty good. Compared to GNWT, there was stuff that was better and above, and maybe we're just not selling it enough. People think it's better to work for the bigger governments, but it's not necessarily so. I wonder if something long term, and there's no easy solution, but I know the feds and the GNWT have some cross-border agreements so that people can move back and forth and carry on pensions and stuff. I don't know what opportunities there are for us, and I certainly, it's not something I expected an easy answer to anytime soon, but maybe something when we have an HR person could look into what kind of transfer agreements or counter, what's the word? Acting or the transfer. Yeah, transferability, right? Because I know when I came over, I ended up losing a bunch of some benefits. Whereas if we had the ability to get GNWT people who wanted to come over for a year, try stuff, and then go back without consequence, then make it easier for us to recruit somebody. Be something we can negotiate with GNWT down the road somewhere.
Any further discussion?
It's a conflict.
That's a comment. Okay, seeing none, moving on to accounts payable report. All had a chance to review it. Any discussion? Okay, none, moving on to correspondence. Mayor Ferguson.
Sorry, I thought I saw it. Okay, I just wanted to know if we had addressed the high school and ski club's request. Not in here as a briefing note, it's just in here as a letter.
SAO, Thomas.
That'll be coming forward next week with community services. They're
Okay.
working on the briefing notes.
Oh, sorry, and the trek would be in there, the
The
trek?
two donation requests.
No, and the donation, okay, and for the trek, the walk for Tourette syndrome? That must be it as well?
I'm assuming.
Okay. Community services.
Yes.
Okay.
And further discussion, Councillor Terry.
The ski club is its own separate line item. They did ask for money in their letter of the report. So that, because it's an annual thing and it's a line item already.
It is a line up and the part of their requirements they provide us with, and council has been very clear that they'd also like to know what did you do for the community over the past year with that funding. So what they provided you is basically a report along to accompany their financial statements to just sort of say, here's some of the cool things we did this past year with the funding.
But we don't have to have a separate motion at the next meeting.
No, but it's in the budget. When you approve the budget, you're approving the line.
Further discussion? Seeing none, moving on. Can I get a motion for the landfill reclamation and expansion?
I move that council authorize administration to engage Colliers project leaders under existing standing offer agreement to provide project management services for the landfill reclamation of expansion project with an upset limit of $95,000 plus applicable taxes.
Mayor Ferguson.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Crock. Discussion. Councillor Teresa.
Should it be upside?
Upset? No, that's correct.
No further discussion. All in favor of the motion? Passed unanimously.
Yay!
Project done.
Are you missing pages?
AB. We have an
ABAB.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
can I get a brief note recommendation to one of the housing construction incentive?
I'll move that council approve the rollout of the phase one housing construction incentive, HAF, as recommended by the HAF Advisory Committee with a program launch date in June 2025 and an initial allocation of $1 million. Administration will return to council with an evaluation and recommendations for any adjustments prior to launching a second intake.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Beatty. Discussion? Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you. So everything that's outlined in here and how you're gonna deliver this program, this, you know, where did you get it from? Is this what other people were doing? Is this like best practices? Is this why we're going this way with this program?
Yeah, sorry.
SAO Wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. What we did was we brought forward what other people are doing, what they've done. There's they have the housing allocation fund, that A is correct, has been awarded, started last year for a lot of people, so we're second year, so we really do get to benefit by the research and what's happening elsewhere. And Hay River is doing something very, very similar to this one. And I think it's Moosomin. I can never remember how to say it. Sorry? Moosomin has done something very similar, and they've had full uptake. So these are really highly successful ones that have rolled out. So I brought these forward to the committee, and we sort of amalgamated a little bit of the best of both worlds into a new one. I know that Councillor Cox had a question in writing to me today that maybe, I'm not sure if you wanted to discuss a little bit.
Sure.
Does that answer your question?
I looked great. It looks like it's well thought out. I just, you know, how do you know everyone's gonna, why are you gonna do a retrofit grant? Like, but if that's the maximum, like if you success in other communities, then likely success in ours too, right?
And just to sort of clarify, we did an upset limit of 1 million going out the gate for this one to give us time to revisit it and to say, okay, we can tweak it this way and we can tweak it that way. We're having a really big uptake over here, or we're not doing it over there, so that we have some room to make adjustments, that rather than have immediate uptake, we realize that maybe we didn't do it perfectly and we can adjust it better. So I think Councillor Cox was next. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was on the HAB committee meeting through this, and I guess I misunderstood going through it, because I was under the impression that this would apply to single unit housing as well, and just family dwellings. Which it is what it is in my mind. As long as it's contributing to housing, it would probably be okay. And I think I guess to clarify on the process, like with the fine print of this come afterwards, right? Like just trying to think of every time I think of a program, my brain wants to think of ways to try and break it, people to misuse it. So things like short-term rentals, right? So what happens if somebody goes and gets a bunch of this funding and then all of a sudden throws Airbnbs in? How do we have things like that? Or what if
I
they,
think it's,
I got it outlined in there.
was that in there?
there was one about no short-term rental in
Oh, okay.
non-confined.
Okay. And I just think of, was just some way, and I don't know how it would work legally, but if it turns out that somebody is not contributing to increasing housing, I guess the example I can think of is the secondary suite stuff. If I get money for a secondary suite, renovate my basement, turn it into a secondary suite, and then my kids move down there, that shouldn't apply. So, right? So is there potential for that to be abused? And can we have some kind of tool to potentially claw back that funding if it doesn't get utilized? Right? Maybe I'm worst case scenario.
I have a question about it. I'm just, why wouldn't your kids have access? There is no, I know my teenage son is renting like something, or not my teenage, sorry, my adult son is renting a suite, like in an apartment in a hotel, because there is no single dwelling places here. So would you really be, but why would that? Kids need a place to live too, right? So
Okay, well,
you don't want them living with you
No.
forever? Like you're kind of creating space.
Maybe the kids is not the right example. Say, okay, I put in a secondary suite and then I just keep it for myself and I just have a finished basement. Right? So I'm trying to make sure that there's not ways for it to get abused. Yeah. Worst case scenario, that's just the way my mind works. Yeah, I mean, I think you know, it's great, it's gonna get more housing in town, and that's what we need. But yeah, guys, my two questions are, do we want to apply to single-family housing? And again, there's, I think next I was looking at putting in a single-family dwelling. And again, maybe I can speak to it, because with the needs assessment, single dwelling housing was what biggest call for was, right? If I understand it. But yeah, so the two questions would be that, and yeah, how do we ensure that the system is robust and taken advantage of?
Councillor Cooper.
I guess a potential solution to address that concern is that part of our contribution agreement to any developer is a requirement for them to show that the units are actually being rented, that there's income coming to a corporate entity for the rental of those units. And if they're unable to demonstrate that over a 3-year period, then we could look at a clawback of a portion of the contribution or other remedies. It's just, I think, I agree with Councillor Cox that there are people that are going to go through this program and figure out how can I pick it apart and benefit without having to actually fulfill the obligations of the obligations and the intent of the program.
So I just wanted to comment that the goal is housing, not income. And so whether it's, like, I understand there needs to be some checks and balances to make sure it's being used appropriately, but a place for kids to live, or somebody who maybe wants a granny suite or whatever, but it's a place for people to live is the actual program. So whether or not there's a lease or something that's associated with that, I don't think should be a determining factor.
Councillor Benro.
Do you think by the utility bill that would show that it's a housing dwelling?
Who would like to answer that? I have an answer, but anyways. Ms. Thomas.
First, interesting insight into your brain. Secondly, all of these sort of requirements would require a lot of administrative and policing work on behalf of administration. I think there's other ways. I think if there's permitting, there's occupation, I think there's other ways, and then that's done. I don't think the intent of this program should be to create an ongoing policing requirement by the town staff. So I agree with making it robust, the application and the requirements robust up front, but I don't think we want to get into that secondary monitoring and making sure that, hey, your kids moved downstairs, and hey, your mom was living with you and now she's living downstairs. I don't want to put that burden on the team at all. That's just my thought to that one. And C, I'm sorry, I'm going to hold the floor for a second. When we went back and forth today in the email, I had suggested that if you felt strongly that it should apply to all new builds, that we could change the wording for that. That the motion would be that you approve the rollout, but that it's not just limited to multi, but to all new, including. So I do offer that up before we finalize that motion, that you consider adding, if you want to remove it to be just multi-housing, you say to new housing. Okay.
Councillor Cox.
Thanks. So, yeah, so I saw my note afterwards and talked about in terms of confirmation, just as long as there's a change in occupation numbers. So even if you just had on the application, how many people are able to live on the property right now, how many people are able to live on the property when you're done. As long as you show that you're actually putting more people onto the property, just making your basement prettier for you, then I think that's good. And in terms of the multi-unit versus single unit, I think just because I have a vested interest, I'm not gonna have a say on that, but leave it up to everybody else. that they want to do it. I mean, realistically for me, I'm probably better off waiting until round 2 anyway, because
Councillor Eaton.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, it's about housing and the needs that are required. There's a very high demographic within our community that is aging. Sunset Chalet is full, is full. They're not. We've been hearing about plans to extend it for years on end now. Our aging generation is going to need somewhere to stay, and if that can be provided to stay with their family where they have care and interest, we as leadership should agree with that. But as far as the young people go as well too, like, it's very difficult for them to be able to even generate enough money for a mortgage. So there's no shame in staying with your family. And it can be comfortable. It's very important. Like, housing is, we've all heard it. Everyone's concerned about housing. So if we start putting in barriers for what these new builds or additions are going to look, it's fair. It's about housing. You or whoever is in. Oh, last thing, generations living within one household is very common in the rest of the world, right? Maybe not in America, but everywhere else, it's a non-issue.
Thank you. Councillor Carashuk.
Just, I'm looking for clarification on what the motion actually means, because you said, approve initial allocation out of the HAF funds with evaluation or recommendations. You said could be tweaking. Is that within the million, or does that mean that in phase 2 there'd be additional funds? Exactly how this is working.
We have 2.6 million under
Yeah.
this fund. So saying this first intake, we'll limit it at $1 million uptake. If there's not an uptake, then we revisit it sooner. But if there's a massive uptake, we stop it there and then we see how it's working, and then we can just adjust. I just wouldn't want it all to roll out the door and we're not happy with how it's actually rolling out, and it's too late because we've
But
already.
the second phase would be additional money.
It would be the
Okay,
rest of the
thank you.
money, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what I wanted to hear.
And I think I'm also, and I'm sorry, I'm hogging. I think I'm also just very cognizant of the federal landscape and the Treasury Board allocations, and rather than committing ourselves to well above what we've been paid so far. Right now, we've got first year's payment. I'm pretty hopeful we'll get second payment. I think going really, really big out the gate, there is potential that maybe we might have to cancel. There might be. I'm hoping not, but the federal landscape is still an uncertain place.
Thank you, Councillor Benwell.
I'm just wondering, this, I think, is that paid back or?
It's a grant.
Councillor Eaton.
Is there gonna be like public engagement about this? Cause I think lots of people would be interested. What's the process? How do you get a development? Who can do the work? You fill out this paperwork.
Thomas.
And just sort of an update on where we're at with the HAF coordinator position. I put it out twice, much like our director one. We haven't had any uptake on it. We've tweaked it. We've put a little bit more money to it. I've tweaked it a third time and did sort of a call out just to the HAF committee, and it's posted. And I'm just looking for somebody local. We are working on a communication strategy already. Our website will have all the information. Our team's working on it. If council moves this forward to the 20th, I think is our official council meeting this month. I might be off by a day.
Yeah.
Then I'd like to roll it out. Then it'll be ready to launch the next day. So we're working on our website. We're working on our applications. We're working on all of our communications to get it out the door. Because I want to move fast on it. I want at least first couple initiatives to go out the door.
Councillor Bate.
Yeah, I just wanted to refer to the housing needs assessment that the question about the needs there. At that time, it was identified there was a shortage of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. And it's noted that housing actually surplus a couple. They're seeing that surplus. And so it recognizes that there's basically a shortage of small units in time. And this is from a separate NWT housing, but that assessment, for example, said there was a shortage of 250 essentially beds, right? So whatever, 250 people that needed a place in town, just to keep it status quo. And so I think, our report that we did through SDAB, going back, there's a broad spectrum of places that are right? Like this is a couple of years old. So I think both those smaller units as well as the bigger units are useful for people. We get as a landlord with the rental units with a couple 3-bedroom duplexes every day asking us for a place to live. There is demand out there.
Any old comments?
So just before council decides whether or not they're gonna move this motion through, I just wanna say one more time, is there any interest in changing it from multi to all housing types? I know Councillor Cox is not willing to move that. I just wanted to throw it out there one last time, because once I get this, we start doing the applications and everything, I really don't want to go back and make any changes on the 20th, if you guys think you're going to change your minds.
Ferguson?
Sure. I don't think I'm interested in changing it right now. I think you're right. It's about the 1 and 2 bedroom apartment style, bachelor apartment style, giving people independence. We have lots of homes for sale, like bigger homes are available if folks want it, but I think this is addressing the one person and 2 people, individual, trying to find somewhere to live.
Okay, Councillor Carrick.
Yeah, I concur with Mayor Ferguson. I think that could certainly be consideration under phase 2. Could we then tweak it to, if there wasn't a huge uptake on the multi-dwelling, then we could tweak it under phase 2 to include single family. Okay, that's what I would say.
Any further discussion?
Exciting times.
All in favor? Passing unanimously.
Exciting for sure.
Can I get a motion for the next one for the 3-year property tax exemption incentive?
I move that council approve the implementation of the 3-year property tax exemption incentive as part of the phase 1 app rollout with an effective launch date of June 2025 and a date of December 31st, 2029.
Seconded by Councillor Cox. Discussion?
So is the missing tax revenue then paid for with the HOA? Thank
We're
you.
not actually losing taxes.
No, that's all I
It's
want.
just that it's being used.
Paid for by the HAF.
That person's getting the benefit of it.
Yeah.
Or that's-
Okay, any, Councillor Cox?
And I believe we said this can be stacked on top of the other one, right?
Any further discussion? Councillor Carrick?
Not really on this motion, but I just wanted to commend the committee for all the hard work and thought that they put into this, listening to the data and the information that they brought forward and the well thought out, briefing notes or plan. I just wanted to commend them. That's a heck of a lot of work committed to prepare. The whole committee.
Good job.
Thank you. The further discussion? Okay, Well, I'll put it to a vote?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Carried unanimous.
You betcha.
You
Got you. You know, I'll do the second here.
Okay.
Policy bylaw review project, I move that council receive this update for information to endorse the revised work plan, which reflects a phased and strategic approach to updating the town's governance framework. Council's continued participation, particularly through the bylaw committee and stakeholder engagement sessions, will be key to the success of this project.
Seconder,
I'll second.
Councillor Cox.
Cox.
Neither.
No.
It was either or Brett.
Oh, I thought I was seeing his hand up, sorry.
Those guys were fast.
Haircheck then?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Write that down.
Okay, discussion. Councillor Eaton. Actually, I need to check for a second. Is she speaking loud enough to hear?
I heard, yeah, I heard.
The mic might not be.
The mic's between us.
Just one to check. Sorry.
Just wondering like when we are gonna be able to see these by project.
The timeline is listed within the briefing note. The best practices report, so by the end of June, I'll receive a best practices report. We'll sort of recommend, okay, we've looked over all of these bylaws. Here's the research we've done. Here's our recommendations on what I think, how we think we should move forward and which ones are priority. And then they'll start working on the draft revisions in mid-August. And then at that time, September would start any of the ones that require stakeholder input. By stakeholder input, it also includes the bylaw review committee. So stakeholder includes the council. So by September, it'll be before the bylaw committee, and they'll be getting a swath of them. I will continue to provide those updates, and I will be providing that best practices report as well to the bylaw review committee for discussion. So it'll sit in the committee level until we've got draft bylaws to bring forward and start the process with council.
Is like, is the bylaw review enter at any time, or there's like
It was appointed at the very beginning of your term.
no, like
They're not typically public meetings, no. But they're definitely, when a draft bylaws go out there, it's definitely welcome to have delegations or public question periods. And depending on how the bylaw committee wishes to run it out, we could definitely do an engagement with the public.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think that some of these would definitely need from the public, right? So that's September, would we have public, once we got a draft thing, here's what we're looking at, here's what we're thinking,
Well, by mid-August.
August, and then we could have maybe,
And then we can identify which ones we think would benefit from having more public engagement and input on. Absolutely. The bylaw committee and council definitely hold the pen on this, definitely hold how they want to run this out.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? So carried. Moving on, other business. Two topics. Start with, lottery. Everybody?
Yeah, the Silver River First Nation holds bingos, and also we have raffles for different items. And they're finding that the lottery fees are too high, and it's almost hard to make $2 out of these things. Just the fee, they have to pay the fees. So I'm wondering if the fees can be brought down to something different.
Mayor Person.
Okay, so I would make a recommendation that we task our administration to evaluate or change the fees to be more options for the folks that are applying for these, because this is not the first time we've heard of these licenses be too costly for the advantage. And so you'll come back with options for us on what it'll look like for reduced lottery fees.
Ms. Thomas.
I'd like to refine that a little bit and suggest that the briefing note I could develop would come up with definitely options of whether or not we want to open up the whole rates and fees bylaw at this time, knowing that we have other projects, including the half project to do, or if perhaps council would consider just freezing it or doing a flat rate until such time. So I will definitely bring forward different options that we can address it. And you're right, we've had several other, I believe actually Councillor Heaton at one time brought forward something about that as well. So it's definitely something I'd be happy to take on, and I wouldn't mind bringing it. I'll try to get it in next week's corporate package, just so that we can address that right away. Thank you.
Councillor Cougaret.
Thank you. Just my thought on it. I think if we came up with a two-tier fee structure, I think organizations that are legitimate fundraising organization for charity purposes should be one rate, and then there's a lot of other groups that are just fundraising for I'm thinking things more like the minor hockey and those and baseball teams, things like that, be at a slightly higher rate than the ones that are doing legitimate charity fundraising purposes. For example, I would look at something, a fundraiser by Uncle Gabe's should be at a $10 fee, whereas if it's a baseball team or a sports organization, $25, whatever we come up with. But, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Cougaret. Councillor Heaton.
Thank you, Councillor Cougaret. I definitely hear what you're saying. Would disagree respectfully. It should be the same for whoever, because it's about raising monies, right?
So fast. Moving on, can I get a motion to go in camera?
Do you wanna just tell the next date and stuff before we go out? Camera?
Oh, we could do that.
And then we'll go on camera. And we're using a counselor.
We have a motion for the exclusion of counselors.
I move that we excuse Deputy Mayor Peter from Corporate Services Standing Committee meeting, May 6th, 2025.
Seconder, Counselor Cox. All in favor? So carried. Date of next Corporate Services Standing Committee meeting will be on June 3rd, 2025. Counselor Karasok, can I have a motion?
Not yet. No. We're gonna go back to
We're
camera.
going back.
Yeah.
But I'm moving in there.
No, please, no.
Not yet.
So I'll move that council move in camera in accordance with the Cities, Town and Villages Act, section 23, 3D, the salary, benefits, or performance record of an employee. Move in camera at 8:20 p.m.
All in favor? So carried.
Are we gonna guys do a wait down here?